on that every person who does not keep to his or her prescribed times will be immediately excluded from the Saha Center, unless they use the center more often than what is necessary according to their time, and if they, thus, let this extra time be omitted. In all other respects, the transmitted data must be fulfilled under all circumstances in the month of August. If a person isn't able to do this for futile reasons up to the last day of this month, then he or she is to be irrevocably excluded from the Saha Center. Unfortunately, the matters of the center, in reference to the storage, do not yet run in the way that would be necessary, whereby Marcel is affected by it the worst. It will be necessary for him that he goes through a second storage period in the month of September, during which, every single Saturday of this coming month, he has to stay in the Saha Center during the times prescribed by me. For all other members, starting from the 1st of September, the practice times will uniformly change by 1 hour and 15 minutes, which will remain so for a long time to come. The times for newcomers will henceforth amount to 1 hour and 50 minutes per week, depending on daily opportunity, for a running time of 2 months. After that, they are also to be incorporated into the usual time of 1 hour and 15 minutes per every 14 days, which is then to be kept regularly. Billy says these data are very clear, but how long will the current period still last for the individual members? Quetzal says up to the end of the month of September. Billy says good, then I now have a question about the storage facility, which, as you mentioned once, should also be of a pyramid form. When should this be built, and how large should it be? Quetzal says the construction should still be initiated this year, for which I will transmit the exact data to you within the next 10 days. Billy says that's good. Quetzal says it will mean a lot of manual work for you again, but you are certainly able to overcome this. Billy says certainly, but now, hear what I have to explain. As I explained to you at our last contact, I've now pulled myself back from the group and now pay my monthly house rent, etc., and basically keep myself away from everything that corresponds to a leadership of the group. But now, for this, we have managed things in such a way that 3 members stand between me and the group, who are oriented by me about all those things that need to be carried out or even arranged. Thus, I tell the 3 what tasks and works have to occur and what all else is to be done. These 3 members are then responsible for ensuring that everything is settled by the group. They are responsible for ensuring that everything now works out and is carried out to the letter, in accordance with the given arrangements, under the condition that I will do this as long as the time has been given by you yourselves to the group to lead everything, at last, into the proper and correct courses and to produce the appropriate changes. So therefore, 6 months, which last until the end of the month of February, 1979. If, by then, everything should actually change and turn to the better, then I can still consider whether I should take over the leadership again, if that's in your sense. But if it doesn't work out by then that means that I would give up everything with the group and actually throw down the pickaxe. What do you think of this? Semyaza says it wasn't to be expected any differently from you, for you are too loyal to your task for you not to have had a very last solution still hidden in you, which you certainly still had to bring to application. But this also became clear to all of us only after we had told you to inform the whole group of our resolution that from now on, the group itself must fundamentally take all matters into its own hands, which certainly couldn't have gone well, however. A real leader, having the necessary organizational talent, is nowhere to be found in the current group, which is why management and leadership by them would have also had no success, so a true resolution for any matter or thing couldn't have been brought into being. In an extremely short time, it would have had to result in the complete destruction, which became clear to us quite soon. For there simply isn't any true decision-making ability or resolution capacity for such matters in any group member. We hoped, however, that you wouldn't simply fail and that, despite your anger, you wouldn't lose control of yourself and that also, in a certain sense, you hadn't released everything of your thoughts and plans, and therefore, you certainly still had to have a final solution in yourself, but we didn't know how this would look. Indeed, we also weren't mistaken in this, according to your explanations given just now. And this was also the real reason why we all made intercession with the High Council for the continued existence of the mission and your group. We simply couldn't resign ourselves to the idea that you would actually and finally give up without still having a very last possibility in reserve and without bringing this to application. Your whole life at the present time and across many other personalities of earlier incarnations was far too developed on toughness and constant struggle for you to have been able just to abandon everything now without any resistance. You have aligned your whole nature too much on struggle and victory for it to have been possible for you to become disloyal to yourself. And since that is so, which we have only now truly, properly, and fundamentally considered and recognized, there is, in fact, still a very good hope that everything will still turn out well and that the mission will find its fulfillment. If you, despite everything, still stand behind the group and everything else, then nothing can be lost. And now that everyone in the group knows that other than this current chance for them, no further ones will be given, they will now surely endeavor around everything sincerely, in a correct and far-sighted form. Maybe now they will also finally realize that all your tasks are so very far-reaching that normally, one human being alone can't cope with them and, thus, that you are doing inhuman things. Billy says, now don't plant flowers again, my golden child. Semyaza says, my words are not a compliment. Billy says, of course not, but you know, dear girl, that I'm quite damn sad because everything is just completely different than at the beginning. I often have to remember how everything was so nice and how, slowly through various unreasonable things and intrigues in the group, everything has nevertheless changed very disadvantageously and to unpleasantness. I am so damn hurt because of it. Semyaza says, unfortunately, you're right, and I wish that it had never happened in such a way as it has, unfortunately, happened. Still other things, however, worry me very much. Billy says so, and those will be. Semyaza says, very unpleasant processes in you. Billy says, you've already been made aware of that. Semyaza says, sure, because Quetzal, in spite of your blockade, made an analysis when we found you lying in a coma in the forest. Billy says, you shouldn't have done that. Quetzal says, we had no other option. Semyaza says, so you know about the unpleasant matter? Billy says, I know it, and I've also felt it for a long time, deep inside of me. Quetzal says, it would be surprising if you had no knowledge of it. Semyaza says, it must be very painful, I feel that. Quetzal says, that is of correctness, and still much more. It must be hell for him when he incurs the pains, if I may express it once with his own words. Billy says, it's bad but not too bad. It can be endured anyhow. Semyaza says, it is pointless if you want to conceal anything. Our analyses show something other than your downplaying words. Quetzal has also been striving since then to clarify things thoroughly and to provide you assistance. Billy says, that really isn't necessary. I know very well that I alone must help myself because everything was only released by my nerves, which I've demolished very thoroughly. Quetzal says, that is of correctness, but from this, there has already arisen a very painful and organic damage, which isn't to be trivialized. Remedial action must be taken against it, otherwise, your time will collapse too much. Billy says, possibly, but I feel no anxiety in me even if my time would be very damn shortened by this. Semyaza says, sure, you feel no fear of death, we know that, but there are still many very important things to do, which just may not be wiped out by your death. Billy says, oh, I know damn well that my time was unexpectedly shortened quite tremendously by everything and that I can't make up for this. Quetzal says, that is in a conditional form of correctness, for I will leave nothing undone on my side to lead much or everything back into the right ways and forms. Nevertheless, on your side, you should also help with this and hold yourself to my instructions. Already quite often, I told you that long walks are of urgent necessity for you and that you need sufficient fresh air and movement. However, you shouldn't go alone and recover yourself in this way, but rather always only in company, for you have already become too susceptible to weakness symptoms and often collapse, in order then, perhaps, to remain lying there for hours, which could be dangerous for you, seen from a different point of view. Also of urgent necessity is this: for the time being, under no circumstances should you deal any more with the concerns of the group members and their personal problems, for this stresses your nerves too much, which you are no longer able to bear. Even the smallest differences of opinion and not even evil-intentioned words allow you, in your very miserable state, to lose your control of yourself, whereby you begin to shout around unnecessarily because you simply can't bear everything any longer. Your nerves are truly completely ruined, and you must now put these under very strict protection. If you don't do that, then you will work yourself up more and more, whereby then also your heart will be affected, which could then suddenly stop working. Hold yourself to it, that for the time being, you no longer attend to the group concerns of an insignificant and private form, and to be sure, in no way. Your group members should also no longer bring you in contact with squabbling group problems in any way, and they should also only come to you with personal matters if these truly concern matters that can only be led into a proper moderation or to a solution through your assistance and advice. All administrative and organizational works in group interests, as well as your responsibility relating to this, you must set aside immediately and let these be taken over by the group members. Also, various group members should take urgent action toward the fact that you are no longer occupied with insignificant things, which they illogically work up into problems. This refers quite especially to those who, quite simply, always rummage around in the same problems or apparent problems, which they could understand in principle and which they would truly be able to grasp if they only wanted to do so and if they tamed their egoism and jealousy. Particularly in this respect, I unfortunately cannot avoid mentioning Elsie by name, for as I could already see on several occasions, she has been dealing for months with apparent problems of marriage alliances and of true love, particularly in reference to the principles of irrelevant laws in the context of multiple marriages, inasmuch as a male life form gathers several female life forms around himself in a marriage alliance. And as I could see, you already tried several times to explain these principles to her, in a very good form even, as I also found out, but she steadfastly refuses to acknowledge these principles because in this regard, a jealous egoism prevails in her, which she doesn't want to recognize under any circumstances. Thus, she invariably always sees herself in a disadvantaged form, which can only be resolved if she finally takes note of the true principles and adapts her entire thinking on this matter to the predominating facts and laws of nature of the earth, without imaginatively and constantly making comparisons between our peoples and our laws, which can't find any validity on the earth for a very long time. Semyaza says that isn't Quetzal's word alone, for he and I have also talked this over with Father, who gave the same guidelines as advice for Elsie. Billy says, oh, you, Green 9, even that still. But I'll see if I can explain these things to Elsie once again. But what do you think of this? On account of myself, I have no great worries. In this regard, I only have grief for the sake of my family, namely that my wife and children would, perhaps, suddenly have to get by without me having financial security for them. Quetzal says, you see, that's why we wanted you to change the statutes accordingly. Billy says, oh, I see, now I understand. Then that is, indeed, clear. May I still ask a specific question? Semyaza says, sure. Billy says, it is on account of the new pope in Rome. When will this twit be elected? Who will he be, and how long will he remain in his office, etc.? Quetzal says, it would have surprised me very much if you wouldn't have raised this question. Well then, I will give you information about that, but you must conceal this until the data have been fulfilled. At